thank you very much. Although this is my second meeting, yesterday's meeting was ended prematurely before we had a chance to vote. So this is really an important moment for me personally, and I think for our community. I'm very grateful for the quality of the conversation, of the presentations, both by the applicant and by the community residents, and the discussion here on the dais. It really fills me with a lot of hope for the future. So I'm very gratified to everyone for their comments, and I think that what's been said really reflects the fact that, yes, of course, property owners have rights, but their rights are not to develop to the maximum potential, but to develop within the framework of the zoning opportunity. And I will be looking at policy development that would speak to the need for policy around a transition or buffer zone so that we're not constantly faced with these situations, and we have hopefully some guidelines that will allow us not to get to the Broward situation, like Commissioner Jordan said, where we build out maximally to the line, making it impossible for agriculture to occur on the other side of the line. I've heard from so many farmers that when that happens, they are not able to continue with their agricultural business, and that leads to the inevitability of pushing back, and that is not what we want. We do want to preserve this unique asset that we have, and I want to commend the neighbors because I don't think they came strictly for the reasons of their personal agenda. I think they also came, many of them, understanding the difficult nature of this transition space. So I would like to move at this time that the CZAB, that we go with the CZAB recommendation for denial.
The motion have to be restated.
Yeah,
go ahead.
The motion is to deny the appeal
right.
and sustain the decision of the Community Zoning Appeals Board.
And if I could just add, I do expect, as Chairwoman Sosa said, that this will lead to a communication at the local level and some ability to compromise. While it would be nice to have farmland, I'm not hopeful that there's a farmer. Yes.
Commissioner, before we do you yield for a second for a question?
Yes.
Will you entertain a deferral to allow the neighbors to sit down with them and come back like we usually do when this happens to prevent, right, Mr. Attorney, a process to start again?
Well, I don't want to disadvantage the applicant in terms of additional fees. I really don't know what the implication of denial versus deferral is.
Can you explain
so
that,
maybe
Mr.
could be explained to me?
If the board were to deny the application, then the next would be an appeal to the appellate division of the circuit court by the applicant. If the item is deferred and the parties get an opportunity to sit and I don't know if that will be fruitful.
I think enough said. I would withdraw my motion and instead restate it as I move to defer the item.
With the instructions?
With instructions.
For the applicants to work with the neighbors?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes. So if you could state it, that would be great.
Well, I want to find out, because if we defer to a date certain, like we did with the CDMP yesterday, we avoid the expense of re-noticing and re-advertising. I don't know when our next zoning date is, whether that would be an appropriate time for the deferral or whether you wish to have it for a different time.
For the zoning meeting in January or in February? February. For the scheduled zoning meeting in the month of February.
Do we have a date for a?
Yes.
Is it the February is the desire?
That's
okay.
What the commissioner.
Do we have a date certain for the February meeting?
The meeting date in February is February 19th, 2015. Madam Chair.
She has a thrower.
I would like to.
I think we should, if we have to give the applicant an opportunity to address the date the deferral date. So
Through the chair, Madam Commissioner, we have contractual issues that if we're deferred out to February, that may be a length of time. I've been speaking with our client, and while I do believe that we may be able to come back with you and reach a fruitful exercise, one thing for our conversation with our sellers might be helpful for us. There was some discussion about the next zoning district down from EUM is the EUS zoning district. And I think that we would go back to our sellers and talk about whether we can reach an arrangement that could work out at that, and see also whether, as a market perspective, whether that works. In order to not waste the time of our neighbors, I think it would be helpful to determine whether that would be a fruitful conversation for us to have. But if we could come back in December, that would be within our contractual timeframes. But
we don't even know if
we have a. I don't know if we have.
we don't have a December.
It's January, the end of January.
We do have a December meeting date. It's December 18th.
December 18.
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner. It's your option.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your willingness to proceed. I don't know what your contractual obligations are, but the neighbors have substantial interest here to be heard. December is premature. I think January is premature. I think February is a reasonable time frame to have a substantial conversation. Yes, I would be amenable to an EUS designation if there can be some greater agreement both from the CZAB and from the neighbors.
I agree with you on that.
When is the January meeting?
The January meeting is January 22nd.
22nd, Commissioner.
yeah,
If I don't know what the compelling reason would be for January 22nd over February 19th. I would much prefer February 19th, and I see from the faces in the audience that they would as well. So I would ask for.
if I may answer that question through the chair, our contract, we will have to negotiate for an extension to get even to January. And so our concern would be is that if it goes out to February, that may decide the issue and keep us from going forward. So I think we would have enough time to meet with our neighbors by the end of January and be back to you either with a decision or without, but it is the will of the board.
If I just might ask, I'm sure that you'll have to be negotiating the change of the application as well as any other matters. So I don't know. I don't really understand what's the difference between January and February, and I think February allows for sufficient time for public input.
The holiday season, neighbors they go out of town, and that is why mostly the commissioner of the area is thinking about that.
Absolutely. If we could be deferred, that would be marvelous.
Okay, your motion then, Commissioner?
Okay, so the motion is to defer the item to February 19th, is that correct? February 19th.
19th, yes.
It will be at 9:30 in this chambers. This is the notice that we're giving today is the notice. So to those members that are from the area that are in the audience, please mark your calendars because there won't be additional notice given other than the notice that we're giving today.
Second that motion, Madam Chair.
Before I make the motion, could I ask a question? Would it be possible to provide some more specificity about the site plan to the neighbors as they had requested so they can understand better what they're responding to in terms of the traffic patterns and roads?
Yeah, we will sit down with the neighbors and we will talk to them and give them more specifics about the development, yes.
Great, because I'm sure they'll address it next public hearing. Thank you very much.
So there was a
move.
motion. It was a second by Commissioner Diaz. Additional questions? Anyone wishes to be recorded? No, without objection. You can leave. I need quorum for the next one. That item is adopted. The zoning meeting is adjourned. And now we call the special meeting